Welcome back to Tiny T Gaming. Today I'm going to be going through my thoughts and predictions on what the Scouring series will cover from Black Library. Now before I get into it, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and gets this sort of content out there and lets me know you guys like it. Obviously, please let me know what you want me to put down on later videos and the sort of content you want to see. So moving on, I will say there will be spoilers in this video from the Siege of Terror and wider Horus Heresy. So if you've not read the series of Siege books yet, give them a read, then come back to this video. Otherwise, you might spoil it for yourself, and it is a really good series to get stuck into if you haven't already. And if you're new to the Warhammer setting, then I'd definitely give it a read because it really explains a lot and gives context to what's going on in the 41st millennium. So, firstly, getting into it. I'm going to start with Guilliman and the Ultramarines. In the era of Ruin anthologies, we saw the Ultramarines come to Terra and were attempting to help restore order on the ruined throne world. I think that we'll instantly see clashes between the Primarchs of Guilliman, Khan, and then Vulcan, and there especially Rogel Dawn, as Guilliman will naturally try and assert control, and then with the most powerful legion left on the loyalist side, he'll seek to carry out retribution on the fleeing heretics, the traitor marines and traitor legions. But also, you'll have the conflict that they missed out on the Siege of Terror. The Ultramarines, being the most numerous legion, were held up, and they really will suffer for it culturally, I believe, because they'll naturally be compared to the Marines and the Astartes that were there and fought underneath their Primarchs in defence of Terra. And then you'll see a lot of heroic acts within the storyline, as I think they'll seek to prove themselves and make amends for what they missed out on. Then obviously we've got the splitting of the legions into chapters, which will naturally blow up into confrontations, and then there will be those who agree and disagree amongst the Primarchs, but also amongst the legions themselves, because the Space Marines are naturally quite proud and arrogant, and obviously that's what's led to a lot of them fall into chaos in the first place. But I think a lot of the storyline will centre on the Ultramarines themselves and their Primarch, because they simply have a lot to offer in the setting, purely down to their numbers and the fact that they haven't been destroyed in their fleets, even though they were damaged and they lost a lot of ships at Kelth. They've still got plenty of workable fleets. That means that they will be the spearhead going out into the Scouring itself. But that's just my thoughts. So I think as well, moving on to the wider setting, a lot of the characters who did survive the siege, like the Space Marines, those anyway who aren't going to become the future chapter masters and specialists and heroes whose names resound down the 10 millennia to the 41st millennium, I think some of them might be killed off because it will be like a fitting end to these warriors who have fought through the worst years of human history to date, and then they'll be seeking to get revenge on the traitors themselves, so it'll slot in quite well. It'll be a shame to see a lot of familiar faces go, but I think that is just how it will work, which will be a shame, but as I said, it's how it goes. These are Space Marines bred for war, and all they're going to do is end up fighting and dying in the long run. But this will centre a lot on the Blood Angels, because with their Primarch Sanguinius dead, they'll be in a state of mourning. I think they'll want revenge massively, but then they'll have the shake-up that they lost so many of their legionaries during the Siege of Terror that their contribution will be quite small compared to the larger legions, and the fact that the Imperial Fists will still be in some shape, as well as the White Scars, because they didn't fall to the Black Rage or the Red First because they don't have it. But I think the Blood Angels will have suffered massively numerically. So their contribution, whilst it will be fitting, they'll be on the back burner a bit. And then with the Imperial Fists themselves, Rogel Dawn is pretty much ruined, I think, mentally, and he'll be in a state of grieving, but the Legion itself, being very disciplined, will move on. But then you'll have the elements like Sigismund and his Templars who will want to crusade straight away. And they'll want revenge against traitors, like they all will. And I keep saying it, but they'll all want revenge. But I think with the mental shift that Sigismund had in his character, from simply being the first captain of the Legion to then becoming the Templar and the Emperor's champion, I think that'd be quite interesting as he shifts into what will then become the High Marshal of the Black Templars when they are formed. And that'd be interesting if we do get to see these legions be broken down, unfortunately, into smaller chapters, and then the Templars go instantly on crusade. But I think that it won't be mirrored in the White Scars and Jagata Khan, because the Primarch himself was very, very broken after effectively dying from Mortarian's blows. And his duel with him, I think that having passed almost beyond to the point of death, and then when he went looking for his brother's soul, Horus's soul, he realising that obviously the Emperor had destroyed Horus's soul completely, he then returned to the land of the living in the Era of Ruin short story. It'll be quite interesting to see his sort of not fractured psyche, but almost depleted or not quite whole. I think that'll be really interesting to see how he is with his Legion. But his Legion is cohesive. It's not like the shattered legions of the Iron Hands or the Salamanders or the Raven Guard. Although they have been present at the Siege of Terror, they did retake the Lionsgate spaceport and they held it. And then they are present in the aftermath whilst they try and restore order on Terra itself. So it'd be quite interesting to see what they do then. But I doubt he will go back to his old charismatic self and being completely free. I think he'll be quite jaded, and I think a lot of them will be now that the Emperor is interred on the Golden Throne, and they have so few of those who had fought through the Great Crusade, which was the golden years of the Imperium. I think it'll be quite a darker setting as the Imperium becomes this more insular, religious and indoctrinated empire of humankind, where it's effectively the opposite of what the Emperor wanted, especially as he becomes deified as the God Emperor of mankind. And then all of the different things that will come up. I really, really want to see, though, Leto return. I really want to know what happens to him. As he wasn't part of a Legion and he did survive being pushed to the feet of the Chaos Gods themselves and not go completely mad, I think he'll be utilised by the Imperium, and he's proven his purity in a sense. He'll most likely become like an agent of the Imperium, I would say. I don't think any of the legions specifically would take him in, because he's just not part of their brotherhood and he's not part of their bloodlines. But it will be interesting to see what happens with him, because he's clearly very skilled, and he does have Garvio Loken's sword Mornitor now, and he is as old as the Imperium itself nearly, which will be really interesting. It'll be really interesting if they start bringing back the survivors of the siege as well. Obviously certain characters like Katsuhiro, etc., they're done with, the mortal characters, but the Astartes will live on and they'll go on to fight through. So the stories will massively revolve around them, obviously, because that's what's interesting, that's what people want to see. But these are just my thoughts, so please like and subscribe. Let me know what you like in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one.